Well, hello everybody. I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and it is 8 p.m. on the East Coast just outside of Philadelphia. But it is lunchtime where my guest is coming from, and so this is Skipping Lunch, episode 20, with Stephen Grodzicki from Pickpocket Press, and I'm going to bring him on screen. How you doing, Stephen?
Very awesome. Hello, Wes. Thank you so much for having me.
We've been planning on getting together for the better part of a year, and it keeps on getting well, maybe at some point, and then a holiday happens, and then we were just talking birthdays happen. So it's fun to finally be able to schedule and make sure that we have this time. And for folks who are used to watching me, I am not in what has become my standard studio. I'm back at my other studio because I got kicked out of my space for the weekend. It's just one of those things. But we are so happy to have you on. This has been a long time coming. Very
Super pumped to be on. I've been wanting to come on for a while. I know we finally made it happen, so very excited. Thank you again. I really appreciate the opportunity.
And I want to say thanks because you were one of the first people to send me a physical book for a review.
All right.
And actually, it's sitting they can't see it on screen right now, but actually I have Low Life 2090 is sitting over on the shelf over there.
There they are.
So nice. Actually, I'm going to hold on a second. No one will be able to hear you. See, it's over there. Low Life 2090 and Low Fantasy Gaming. There you go.
Very awesome.
Which is awesome. And I had so much fun, and I really fell in love with the system, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you. And so we actually have King Eric, the greatest of all. This is his YouTube name. Is on asking. He's asking, "Are you from Essex?" You are not from Essex. Where are you from? Where are you coming from right now?
No. So I'm in Sydney, Australia.
I love this.
In fact, we live my wife and I and kids live in the Blue Mountains, which is actually about an hour and a half from Sydney by train. So I'm not exactly in the city, but yeah. I just say Sydney to everybody, so they sort of have a bit of an idea.
So people have a clue.
We are.
No American has a clue. They just know people live mostly on the southern coast of Australia. They have no idea where it actually is. We have to see a map. Did you know most Americans cannot find the United States on a map?
Oh my God!
Unless it's in the middle. No. Most people can't figure out where their state is unless there's the lines on it. I'm actually really lucky because I have a river right by me. But anyway, let's start talking about the thing. Let's talk about this insane hobby that we are a part of. This role-playing game hobby where we pretend that we are other people for hours on end, and then the real weirdos end up becoming game masters. So what first got you into this hobby?
I started out probably the way a lot of gamers did. I mean RPG gamers did. I actually started out with choose your own adventure and game books like the fighting fantasy game books, where you roll the dice as well as sort of choosing what page you want to turn to. That came, I'd say I was in probably 4th grade or 5th grade. So primary school, pretty young. I wasn't reading anything. And then one of my mates had this game book.
Okay.
And I started, fell in love with it straight away with the fighting and everything. And you got your adventurer and so on and so forth. And then my dad was straight onto it. Dad was like, holy moly, he's reading.
Good catch.
Look at this guy read, because I wasn't reading anything before that. And that really did kick off my love of reading, which of course led to later, the basic set. And then, but actually by the time I saw basic in about 88, I think it was.
Okay.
There was already AD&D. It was already out. And so my group, of course, went, oh, this is only basic. We must move on to the advanced version.
It is the age-old tale, yes.
Oh, totally. I only played a little bit of basic, and then we were straight off into advanced. And then we played that for like 10 years. And
so
then,
you started with Mentor Basic? The red
box? Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. One of my mates had that. I still remember, actually, I accidentally spilt something on it, and it was like, it was a major drama. It was major trouble. Oh, yeah. But anyway, we worked it out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because sort of got passed around to everybody because we didn't have any money at that time. And yeah.
Gotcha.
But yes, so started out with Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone. Those fighting fantasy books really kicked it off.
Did you ever have? Did you have Lone Wolf down in Australia?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
those were the
well.
first game books that I played.
Okay.
But what was your favorite Choose Your Own Adventure? So King Eric the Greatest All was like, is he talking about Choose Your Own Adventure? Yes, he was. Do you remember any of them?
I don't remember the names, but my favorite one was the car race. There was this really awesome.
I didn't have that one.
Oh, it was really good where you had to choose different cars and you were speeding along in the race. It was really fun. And that was that was actually the very start of that, because that then led to fighting fantasy.
Okay.
So it was Choose Your Own Adventure. And that was a book that was just in our library, in our school library.
That's awesome.
Yep. So thank you, librarian. I can't remember the lady's name now, but yeah, by virtue of having some of those books in there.
Did you see that they took the last season of Stranger Things and turned it into a Choose Your Own Adventure book?
Oh my gosh!
Like I have it. It's got the classic cover and everything. It is so much fun.
Oh, that's cool.
I've died like 14 different ways. It's so great. I also want to point out that King Eric the Greatest of all says he does know where Sydney is because his brother lives in Sydney and teaches at the university there.
Oh my gosh!
So it's start queuing up. It's a small world. So you were playing. You started Choose Your Own Adventure. Went to the adventure books, playing Mentor Basic, and then we must be advanced. How long was it until you became a GM?
Oh, really quick. So we had a group of about, I would say it fluctuated from 4 to 10 players, and very, very quickly. I mean, I think I played in someone else's game first, and then I GM'd the next one. Like we were straight into it. Everyone was GMing. We were rotating it. People wanted to take turns to kill each other off. So, that's look how hard I can make my adventure.
Oh yeah,
you think that one's hard? You wait for mine.
I can kill you faster. That's awesome.
It was totally like that. And so we were all just doing it from the beginning, playing and GMing. There was no.
That's so weird. There's no forever GM in your group.
No. And so with the guys who I still play with now, it's still the same. We just rotate the GMing, which I think is what you need to avoid the burnout sort of. I mean, I'm not saying that we haven't had breaks. Of course we have. It's been like 30 years or however long. But it is a lot easier, I think, when you take turns. And even if you're playing you can play in the same setting and the same campaign, you can still rotate it. You just need to be a little bit, it's just easier if you hive off some, I'll take care of my adventures are all going to be over in the mountains, and then your adventures are going to be, down south in the deserts or whatever. And so you don't sort of intersect.
Yeah.
Or at least that's how we've been doing it. Yeah. But
your TTRPG group is like the unicorn.
Well, I should say it comes in, we have our up periods and our down periods, and we seem to go through, there's periods where we don't do much playing at all, or we'll swap to, I don't know if this is also something a lot of other groups do, but we will go from RPGs to card games to then board games, and then we'll swing back around to RPGs. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of we're on a bit of a cycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. My Monday group is a little bit like that. We had 2 longer campaigns, and now we just kind of try different systems. So currently, one of the members is running us through a Shadow Dark funnel.
Oh, nice.
I lost 2 people in the first room. So that was fun. All right. So it's fun. I have to make this a regular question because King Eric asks it every time. So he has a board game question. Did you ever play Hero Quest, which was reprinted in 2021, Dungeon or Dragon Strike?
Oh, I definitely played Hero Quest. I remember playing it. I think I've got it still somewhere. If I don't have it, my brother has it, because that was an amazing game. And I've got two brothers, 3 sisters.
Okay.
Not that, I don't know, my sisters just weren't particularly interested, or maybe we didn't really invite them to play it, but myself and my 2 brothers played the hell out of Hero Quest, and also played it with the guys from time to time.
Okay.
But Dragon Strike, you know what? I feel like I know the name. I probably, knew what it was, but wasn't able to buy it. I probably didn't have the money to get it, so I didn't. But we did do heaps of Hero Quest, heaps of Talisman, and we played later Rune Quest. Anyway, we've done a whole bunch of, we've done Risk, we've done a bunch of other board
But
games.
you are the
Monopoly,
second guest
which
who has ever played.
hate Monopoly, but
I love it because it taught my 4-year-old math. Like that's
actually
it.
fair
Like
enough.
he can do
Fair enough.
change now. He's
That's
almost
fair
6 and he's like doing multiplication, which is bizarre.
Yes, that's actually good.
It's really
Okay.
good. But you're the second guest that's ever actually affirmed that you played the board game that King Eric asked about.
Oh, right.
So you are in rare company right now. I should point
Okay,
that out.
nice.
And I do want to
Nice,
point out
nice.
to King Eric that is not the map of the Sword Coast. I just threw that up in Wonder Draft for my background of my interviews.
All right.
All right, let's talk. So you're down in Australia. You started with Mentor, so you had like at least from our touchstone points. I started with Moldvay, so I'm a little earlier than you. But our touchstone is D&D was the dominant force. What's kind of like the scene down in Australia right now, at least in like your area? Is D&D still the 5-ton behemoth, or is it a little bit wider?
Oh, 100%. It's still always has been in Sydney anyway.
Okay.
The D&D's been the dominant force. You see the other games at the cons a little bit. Not that I've been to a con for a while.
Okay.
But that's where you will actually see the other games. But if you go to the local game shop, it's almost exclusively D&D 5e. But that's not exactly true. There will be other games running from time to time, but it's nothing like the number of games that are running for
Gotcha.
5e.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's still the dominant force.
Oh,
And I mean,
definitely.
it kind of makes sense. You don't have to really translate it for
Yeah.
for language. Although, how do you spell armor?
ARMOUR.
Okay, so you do the British
Yeah.
spelling, not the
We do. Yeah, that's true. Yep. All through my books, it'll be
That was
yeah,
always the
UK
coolest thing for us to
spelling.
get like Fiend Folio because it's like, oh, it's got the fancy spelling for armor,
Oh, right.
which is good. So, but you are a game developer in Australia. You got this 5-ton or 10-ton behemoth who's there. But is there a lot of role-playing game development going on in Australia? I mean, is there like a group of you that kind of get together, or are you kind of like
Not
off?
really. There's a little bit of chit chat on Twitter, actually, or whatever it's called these days. Is it called X these days? Anyway,
I
Twitter,
don't know.
I still call it. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm on Mastodon and Blue Sky at this point. So
Yeah. I don't know what to do with all that. I just sort of, I'm in a few different places where I don't really, know exactly what I'm doing with it, except just when I see something interesting, I comment on it.
gotcha.
So Yum DM is in Queensland,
Okay.
who you may or may not know, but he does an awesome D12 monthly
No, I'll have to check that
RPG
one out.
magazine. Oh, it's really, really good, and it's free. Well, there's a
neat.
free version with like 85% of the stuff, and then there's you can contribute version, and you get some
neat.
extra.
Oh
some
yeah,
extra
send
cool
me the
stuff.
link to
Oh
that on
yeah,
Discord. I got to check that out.
I will. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's D12 monthly. So
right.
yeah, Russ is in Queensland. I think he's in Queensland.
Okay.
So he's a different state to me.
Mhm.
And I do know there's at least, there's a few really cool illustrators down here, and I just can't, I've got them as their friends on my Twitter and so on. And I've got them on my list of people who I will approach for illustrations for commissions. I just can't think. There's David North. Who
Okay.
else is there? Anyway, there's a few really cool Australian illustrators who I will try and be using in future projects. But other than that, I'm not really sure. I do know there is at least another guy who's on Twitter floating around. I just can't think of his name at the moment. But
Okay.
from what I know anyway, and can't say I'm like super plugged into the RPG designer
scene.
circuit in
Gotcha.
Australia, but these are the guys that I've seen. I haven't seen
Gotcha.
like heaps of them.
But from
there
your
are some
experience,
floating
it's
around.
not like being in Europe or in North America.
Oh no,
where
I
it's, like,
don't think so. I
everywhere.
don't think so. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Although I'm a bit slack with, I really do want to get back to going to cons just because they're so fun.
Yeah.
But also, not only do you get to play in the games, and when you take your group, you get to have an independent. Like you get to play. The whole group gets to be players, and you've got the independent GM, which is really fun. But I just haven't managed to. I just haven't had the time lately, but I think that's also where I could obviously meet up with other
other
Sydney,
local developers,
Sydney
and stuff.
guys. Yeah.
I hope you're
so I
able to
need to do
do that. Actually, I'll be asking about that a little bit later.
Oh.
But so you are this. We're just going to say you're a trailblazer of TTRPG design in Australia, and someone's going to yell at us later for that. Um, but you decided you're going to form Pickpocket Press. So when, like, what is sort like when did you form it? What made you think like, hey, I'm going to try this crazy thing? Like, what led to that?
Yeah. That so it originally came about because I wanted to play a setting by it was called Primeval Fool
Okay.
by Sasquatch Games. The creators are called.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've heard of that one, but
Mm-mm.
it's quite old. That's quite a few years ago now. That's 6 or 7 years ago, something like that. But it's a very Conan style, sword and sorcery style
Okay.
setting with primeval forests and ancient ruins and sort of a points of light style setting.
Okay.
But there's a few, and also that's right. Magic was very dark and described as very dark and dangerous,
Okay.
and rare, right? And so I was like, all right, well, I want to play this setting, but I've got 5e, and when you look at the way 5e works, especially with its magic
Yeah.
in so many, it's very much a high fantasy game and
Mhm.
not easily adapted. You can adapt it, but it's not easily adapted to a more sword and sorcery
I mean, to
style
play
campaign.
sword and sorcery with 5e, you have to take 5e into a dark alley and beat the tar out of it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
There's not many classes left. If you take out all the classes with magic, there's very little left. So I was playing around with making, for example, a non-magical bard class and a
Okay.
non-magical fighter class. I mean, there is a subclass
Okay.
from the core rules. Anyway, so and a non-magical ranger. That's right, because the ranger gets spells in 5e. So I was trying to do all that to play Primeval Thule, and I was throwing it up on a website, and eventually I changed so much that I thought, you know what, if I'm going to change all this, I may as well change a few other things that I don't that I
Okay.
don't love about 5e. And so I introduced the way that the different sort of death mechanics and um, the natural 19 effects and other bits and pieces and party
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
retreat
Uh-huh.
rule and all this, and it ballooned enough, and I was putting this out for free. Here it is on different websites, and then enough people sort of went, oh, this is actually pretty cool, I'll play this, I'll try this or whatever. And then so after a while I went, okay, well, I'll put it into a physical book, and then put it out through Lulu,
Okay.
and around that time we made Pickpocket Press, just as the entity
Gotcha.
to be publishing it, and just sort of spawned from there. So the original idea was that I had this particular setting that didn't mesh all that well with 5e, and I tried to do something that would mesh with it better.
Okay.
So I ended up sort of I took a lot of inspiration from 5e, but also from 5e, but more modern style
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mechanics. But also, I still love, of course, all the old school, a lot of the old school themes, I guess, of sort
Yeah.
of high danger and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
risk and so on, and tried to plug them into it as well.
That's kind of cool. What year did Low Fantasy Gaming come out?
I think it was like I want to say 2016. It was something like that. I could actually go back and look at my old
So it was
old
way
website.
in the before times.
It was at the early times of 5e. That's all. I forget. Yeah, it was like 2015, 2016.
Okay, it's been out
Something
for a
like that.
while. And
Yeah. It's been around for a while.
I do have to tell you, like Low Fantasy Gaming is one of those games that just does not get anywhere near enough buzz for what you did to create it. It's really kind of cool. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. This is not your day job, however, right?
No, I wish it was, but alas.
What is your day job?
I'm a public prosecutor with the Federal Prosecution's Office here. Yeah, that's my day job. Yeah.
This was not expected. I love it.
Yeah,
But you have to make sense. You have to do writing. You have to do reports. You got to do all the stuff. So
oh yeah,
make the game.
There's a ton of writing that goes on.
Which
Absolutely.
is absolutely. And you started with low fantasy gaming, which you said you riffed off of 5e and a lot of the old school. You picked the same basic stats are there, so anybody who plays that are familiar with it. Um, but you have it set up as a roll under game. Now, what led you to do that? Because that is so counterintuitive, at least especially at 2016 when you were doing it, to what people were
Yeah.
used to. So, what led you to the roll under mechanic?
Yeah, that was because, I mean, that actually, the roll under, of course, is a very old mechanic, which was around.
It's a
Well,
Menser
in
mechanic,
fact,
yeah.
yeah, early D&D had it because that's right. It said in some of those rules, if you want the, anyway, it was already there. But the reason I like it and still like it is because it makes your attributes really matter. Every point matters. So if you've got and that's kind of the opposite to 5e, for example, because in that your statistics, once you've rolled your statistics, once you've got the bonuses, +2, -2, you can almost throw away the statistics themselves. Like it doesn't matter if you've got 18 strength or 12 or whatever. All that really matters is the +2. That's not entirely true. There is some rule about encumbrance. I forget exactly, but it's largely true. You can pretty much
like
get rid of it.
99% true. And it's why games like Index Card RPG just just use the modifier. We don't.
Yeah,
we don't
precisely.
Yeah.
They're like, what? Yeah, we'll just keep the modifiers. So I was like, no, if we're going to have statistics, they need to matter. And so it's a very different feeling when you've got, for example, a person with, say, strength 13 versus someone with strength 8. When you've got to roll, say you want to knock the door down, okay, the GM can go, oh well, if you got strength 12 or more, you make it, you don't have to roll. But if they want you to roll, if you're rolling against 13 or under, that's a big difference to rolling against 8 or under.
Yeah.
Probability wise. But if you just took the modifiers, that would just be a +1 or a -1 on your D20. So it helps avoid the situation where when you're rolling under, that classic, I think of it as classic situation where the barbarian with 18 strength tries to knock the door down and fails because it's a DC 15 check and he rolls a 3 or something.
Right.
And then the wizard with strength 8 comes and knocks, and he does knock it down. Yeah, because the D20 is so important in that kind of system.
Yeah.
Because only the +2, the -1. But in a roll under, you won't tend to see that. If you've got 18, or no, not 18, if you've got 16 strength, you're very likely to knock that door down if you need to make a strength check. And the wizard, conversely, with 8 strength is quite unlikely to knock it down. So I think it just shows it helps eliminate that kind of weirdness.
Okay.
And in low fantasy gaming and Argosa and all that, low life 2090, we've doubled down on that because if you've got the skill, that gives you access to a small reroll pool. So if the barbarian tries to knock door down, fails, if he's got athletics skill, he's got maybe 3 rerolls up his sleeve. He can reroll it, and so that just increases your chances.
Gotcha.
Even more. So that's why, because I wanted the statistics to actually matter and come through and play. And another thing too that's pretty awesome about it is that I just thought of is that the players know kind of in advance what the target numbers are. So if you've got a thief with Dex 16, you know that he's good at hiding. Like almost all the time, he'll be. Well, you might do it as an opposed check, I suppose, with your enemy's perception, or you might just do a roll under Dex check. So it just means that the players have a better idea of their chance of success without having to say to the GM, "Oh, what's the DC?" or "What's the." And the GM, of course, the referee can apply modifiers to that attribute roll. I'll give you -2, or I'll give you advantage or disadvantage. So you can still muck around with those. If you want to change the numbers, you can.
Right.
And actually, we also have this great success and terrible failure mechanic where if you roll under half, it's a great success. So if you need a 10 and you roll sort of 5 or less, you get an extra benefit. But we also have the converse where if you roll more than 1.5, so if you need a 10 and you roll 16 plus, you get a terrible failure, not just a failure. So you can throw in, you can build in these degrees of success to the rolls as well. Yeah. So that's sort of, I probably yammered on too long about that. That's the basic.
That's one of the things that I really like about it is that it does make those attributes matter. I mean, I did a whole video on my channel about it. It's like, what are ways to make the attributes matter? And roll under is one of my absolute favorite. And that's what Dragonbane uses. So it's
cool. Exactly. Yeah.
But then you have this other thing that you threw into the game because you completely hacked the way saving throws work. And you introduced this concept of luck, which flat out is like, when I got that, I was like, oh, I want to do a dungeon crawl using this. So can you first off just explain to people how your luck system works and what like why it is an amazing and absolutely terrifying concept that you have added to this game?
All right. So first of all, I should caveat. I did not create the luck mechanic, the core luck mechanic. I mean, it actually was inspired by two games.
Okay.
One, of course, Fighting Fantasy.
All
So
right.
Fighting Fantasy has a luck attribute, and I forget, every time you roll it, it goes down, something like that. Every time you have to make a luck check, it goes down. And that's basically where the idea came from. But also DCC, Dungeon Crawl Classics, has a luck mechanic as well. It's different, but
it is different. Yeah.
Yeah, you can burn luck there and do different things. But anyway, I love DCC, and so that was also, part of the inspiration. But so for our variation of it, basically your luck score, which starts at 10 plus half your level, I think it is, round up. So you first level guys got luck 11 generally, and it's your saving throw. So if you need to make a save for whatever reason, you're rolling against your luck, you want to get under it. But if for example you need to dodge out the way of a fireball, you take your dex it's called a luck in brackets dex save. And so what you do, just say you've got a +2 bonus for dex, so your 11 luck goes up to 13, and you're rolling under that. So it does take into account your attributes as well. But the best part is that every time you succeed so only when you succeed, not when you fail.
Right.
Because when you fail, you've just copped the fireball or whatever. That's bad enough. But if you succeed, your luck goes down by 1 point. So there's this inbuilt, sort of ratchet of danger in the game. The longer that the adventure goes on for, excuse me, the more saves you have to make, the more and more dangerous the adventure becomes. So your luck will literally run out. I mean, well, I think it's a minimum of 5, something like that, but it drops over time. And in addition to that, we've also got a few other things you can play. You can sort of spend your luck. The main way is through something called major exploits, which are like big moments in a battle or whatever, where you want to do something. It's like I don't know. It's things like cutting the poison tip off a scorpion's, cutting the end of its tail off. Or if you're fighting a wyvern or something, you want to sever its wings so it can't fly anymore. So major sort of effects. And you can do it. It's fine. You just make the attack roll, and then you make a luck check. And if you succeed, I mean, subject to GM.
Yeah.
Okay. The GM has to say, yeah, okay, you can do that. But then it happens, so you get the effect. You sever the wing or whatever it is. But your luck, because you succeeded on a luck roll, your luck drops by 1. So there's this interesting. It's kind of self-balancing because players could just go around doing major exploit all over the place and slaughtering a bunch of tough creatures possibly.
Yep.
But if they do that, well, I mean, yeah, see, there's this interesting interplay between, well, do I want to really get this guy now and finish his combat? My luck is down to 8 already. Oh, okay, I can drop to 7. But then if there's a wizard or whatever waiting, or there's some...
Or the trap is in the ceiling, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be harder for me to survive that. So anyway, that's how it works.
And luck only replenishes after the adventure.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So that's also really important, is that generally speaking,
like, I'm going to take a nap and get my rest back. Oh, no.
Yeah.
You're still on the same trip. So
yeah,
luck is still
where
you are.
Yeah, it's per adventure. So luck is, in fact, so newcomers to the game may not appreciate that luck is the most important stat in the whole game. More than hit points, more than your class abilities. It's the most important stat because it can do wonderful things, and it also will keep you alive. And so anyway, you've got to keep an eye on it. Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, just the built-in tension building. Yay, we lived. Oh crud, I'm doomed. That was the thing that captured me about the game when I was doing my review and reading. I was like, that's really cool. I have not tried to incorporate it into like my basic fantasy table yet. At some point, I feel like um,
It is fun.
yeah, it really is. And then you did low fantasy gaming, then you moved to low life 2090, which is a lot, very similar concept to Shadowrun, which is cool. But you're using low fantasy gaming's engine. So you have made a couple of changes between low fantasy gaming and low life 2090 that update the game engine a little bit. So what are some of the things that you've iterated as you move forward to that second game?
Yeah, Low Life 2090 was a really hard. Well, not hard. I mean, because I already had the base, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
of LFG, but it's really difficult, I think, to cyberpunk games or games with magic technology
Mm-hmm.
and all your usual melee stuff, and then you've got vehicles, and then you've got cyberware, and then you've got hacking, and it's just there's a lot going on. And so the
Yeah.
main challenge in that game was to fit it all in one book and to try and simplify it, not overly simplify it, but enough that you can grab the book, you can read it, and you basically got a handle on it, and
Mm-hmm.
you can run, you can run the system without needing all any other books.
Yeah.
So there was a few changes that had to be made. The major one, so and my inspiration for that game was clearly there was a lot of, I love Shadowrun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've always loved that game, but
Yeah.
the system itself, depending on which version you're using, can be a bit complicated, or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I played it for years with my
Oh, it's
main
amazing.
group. Yeah,
And it's
amazing
complex
game.
as all get out. Yes.
It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
And so for Low Life 2090, one of the things I tried to do was to simplify things. But that's right. Just coming back to when I was playing Shadowrun and Cyberpunk, because we played Cyberpunk 2020, and a few other games. We played Werewolf the Apocalypse and
Okay.
a few other sort of modern or further.
Mm-hmm.
I played a bit of Star Wars and stuff. But anyway, the thing is that those games, when we were playing them anyway, tended to be mission-based games.
Yeah.
Where there wasn't often very much combat, and that was kind of the opposite to low fantasy gaming, where it was expected that you would do a lot of combat because it was an attrition based, hit
System. Yeah.
points
Yeah.
slowly
Yeah. Yeah.
deplete, and then so because I knew there was going to be less combat in Low Life 2090, I wanted to make the combat matter, so I made it much deadlier. So
Okay.
the hit points were dramatically reduced in Low Life, and we gave the characters a little bit of armor soak, which you don't have in the traditional D&D. There's
Mm-hmm.
isn't sort of
Mm-hmm.
any soak
Mm-hmm.
mechanic, but they had a little bit of soak. And then I went and put all the damages up. All the guns do a lot, like they do like 2d8 instead of
I mean, there's
1d8
literally a
from a
line in the
sword.
Low Life 2090 book is like, "Do not get shot.
Something like that.
Don't do that."
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also I threw in the trauma tables, which is to do with if you rolled a natural 19 or whatever, you roll on this special table, and all the different guns have different dice that you roll, and basically a shotgun is a lot worse than a pistol, which is worse, or it's about the same probably as a dagger or a knife. But anyways, so there's just you have way less hit points. The weapons do more damage, and you can also get these persistent effects or permanent effects where you lose a hand or you lose your eye or whatever, that sort of thing. And for the purposes of the Cyberpunk game particularly, I thought that was perfectly fine because you can just buy a new eye or buy a new hand. You have to spend the money, but because you got all the cyberware, it was a really good opportunity to let loose on that sort of thing and make the combat very nasty.
Yeah, so like
because as long as they
long-term low
survive,
lifers are going to be walking around and they have like metal arms and
which everyone loves anyway. Come on, everyone wants a cyber arm. But yeah, so there was that, and then obviously the hacking. We needed some hacking rules. We needed some vehicle rules, and then just a whole new equipment list of all the sci-fi style
You
gear.
you
So those
also
were the
added an
main.
attribute, right? Because
What did we add? We had initiative.
initiative becomes an attribute in Low Life 2090.
Okay. Oh yes, it did.
So
And that's because one of the not problems, but one of the quirks of the sort of traditional D&D system is that the dex stat is really important. Dexterity
right.
stat.
Right.
It's your it's your stealth roll,
Mm-hmm.
it's your ranged attack roll, it's your initiative roll. It's a whole bunch of things. And so to mitigate that a little bit, yeah, we made the initiative stat, which is just a derived. You take the average of your dexterity and your intelligence
Yeah.
and pull that together, and that gives you your initiative score, which you then have to roll under like any other attribute
And initiative's
to
neat because
have a
it's like
success on.
tiered group initiative, which is kind of cool. So you win, you go before the baddies. You lose, you go after the baddies. If you do if you do what's the
Yep.
fantastic
If you
success, you get to go before the
great
boss. It's
success,
great success.
yes, yep.
So it's really easy to do. I was like, failed, failed, failed. Okay, your clips are over here. There, I'm over here. It's so fast, and yet it's
Yeah.
still everybody still gets to do a roll for that, which I thought was kind of a neat trick. But I did like the inclusion of intelligence into your initiative stat.
Yeah, well, I mean, otherwise, otherwise, intelligence sometimes can fall by the. That's another thing I'm a big fan of, is trying to make all the stats important to all the classes
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
in some way. And I mean, it's hard to do.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's I don't know if it's absolutely necessary. But I really disliked in 5e how you would see every paladin had intelligence 8, because intelligence played no role
Mine
for
had a
the paladin
dexterity of
character.
8. I'll have you point out.
Oh, all
So
right. A lot of the ones that we were seeing, anyways, and I went, no,
right,
we're not doing that. Intelligence is going to be important to everybody, and that was one way
to
to
make it
bring it up a
important,
little bit. Yeah, yeah.
which I did. I
So
really appreciated it, which was cool. And now you're on your third game. So you have the Tales of, and I keep wanting to flip the G and R, but it's Argosa, Tales of Argosa.
yes,
And I let
yep, yep.
you're not going to see this, but I do put the title up on the screen.
Okay, okay.
Um, here goes. So we have a couple of people in the comments. Coco B says, "Howdy all. Low life is straight deadly. You can one shot a judge in the Dread universe. I seen it." I'm assuming that Coco is a favorite. And then we have Matt
Oh yeah,
Morrow.
we played together.
Matt Morrow says, "I'm just here to make sure Mr. Grodzicki doesn't say anything bad about me." So what dirt would you like to share on Mr.
I would
Morrow?
never say anything bad about Matt Morrow. He's my favorite artist, favorite person to commission. Matt, favorite person.
Oh, that's awesome.
Uh,
That's so cool. Thank you
yeah,
for being
and
on, both of you. But you're doing Tale of Agrosa. So this started out as the working title of the game, right? And I flipped the R and the G
it
again,
did.
Argosa. But it was the working title of the game first. So when did it become the actual title of the game from the working title?
Yeah, I don't know when it transitioned. You know what happened? I think it was just that classic story of, I started out with that as a working title, and I just saw it so often as I was writing and putting things down and referring to it. I just got so used to saying it that I went, oh, well, that's it now. It's set.
Okay.
After a certain number of months, it just became the title. And I know it's sort of hit and miss. Some people don't like it that much and others do. But I think it's one of those things. I think it grows on you. And once you've got it, it's
Okay.
fine. It could have just been maybe, well, I don't know. Anyway, that's what I decided to go with. But the original, the way it came about was that the original plan, in fact, was to make, I've got a little book called The Midlands
Uh-huh.
Low Magic Sandbox Setting.
Right.
And it's basically just 250 pages or something like that of just adventures and a setting with 5 different cultures, and it's all humans, and it's very sword and sorcery style setting. And I wanted to redo it as a box set. And this was after I tried to make a board game a little while ago. It didn't quite work out, but a bit off wave, more than I could chew, I think.
I wish it would have. I'm so sorry it didn't.
Oh, no. Look, it was a fantastic learning experience. Very expensive way for me to learn how to use Affinity. But we did learn.
I do love Affinity.
Anyway,
So,
I love it too. And that's right. But as a result of that process of trying to make that game, I learned a lot about box sets, dice, cards, how to produce these things. And I went, well, that's it then. Okay, forget the board game. We're going back to Midlands, and we're going to do a revamp and turn it into a box set.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay. But then I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, it's been like 7 years or something since, 6 or 7 years since Low Fantasy Gaming. And that's right. There was the OGL
and the
scandal,
OGL debacle.
right, came out. And this is all around the same time. And so, well, just a little while ago now, but
Mm-hmm.
the seeds of it were sown then. And so I thought, well, I really should do, and I'd done low life and I saw how that worked
Mm-hmm.
better in certain respects for the fun of, in your session, how certain parts of that work better. I thought, well, low fantasy gaming could really be tweaked and brought up to date.
Yeah.
I think to tweak it in certain ways that I think will make it more fun.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to do the Midlands box set, I should really do it properly and update LFG first. And so that's how Tales of Argosa came around. Because I was
Okay.
trying to tie it to the Argosa sandbox, which will be
The
the
box
box
set.
set. Yeah, so that's what's happened. So
Okay.
the fingers crossed, I will be able to raise some funds on this Kickstarter to make the actual box set that I wanted to make.
We're gonna try to
in the
make sure
first
that
place.
you get this done.
So
So,
anyway, it's all fun.
but so is it accurate to say then that this is in its core, its essence, that it is low fantasy gaming like a second edition?
It is. It is. I mean, it's using that base game, and it's
Okay.
just there's a lot of tweaks to it, but it has changed over time as well. I mean,
Right.
and some things did need to be fixed, really. Like we used to get a lot of complaints about the barbarian in the LFG being too strong. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And
I can
over the
see
years, I'm
that.
like, yeah, they are pretty strong. So I can probably tone them down a little bit. Or like, the sleep spell or insidious slumber. I
Mm-hmm.
think we had it as, but there's no saving throw. It is very strong. And that was actually a throwback, of course, to
To
the basic
basic.
sleep
Oh,
spell or the AD&D.
I hate sleep in
Oh,
basic D and
it's
D.
so deadly, and you feel bad because you don't want to use it against the players because you're going to TPK them.
Yep.
So anyway, there was some balance issues about some things which previously I was, back in 2016, I was content to just leave as they were as
Yeah.
a bit
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
a homage, I suppose, to the original game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been enough. I've seen enough. There's been enough complaints. I've gone, okay, I'm going to tweak these, and we're going to. They're still awesome. They're still awesome. The barbarian's still awesome. He's just toned down a little bit. The sleep spell is still there. It's still awesome, but they get saves now. So the low level creatures are still going to fail their save, and you'll be able to do whatever you want. But the ogre is gonna. They have a better chance of saving. So, anyways, we've tweaked a lot of stuff like that, and then so there was it. Yeah, there was things to change.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you did some tweaks. Are there any mechanics that you changed? Did you pull some of the stuff that you learned for Low Life 2090 into Tales of Argosa?
Yeah, so absolutely. So the main three things that I wanted to try and do with Argosa was to make it more dangerous, because I think in LFG there was a little bit too much hit points over time. Once you got into the higher levels,
Okay.
I think the hit points probably blew out a bit too much, which in turn meant that and the reason I was happy with that originally, and this is the way that the normal D&D works, the hit points keep going up and up and
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my original thought was, well, if you have more hit points, it just means that you can adventure for longer, and
Mm-hmm.
because it's attrition style game, and so you can get further into the dungeon and so on. And that's true, but you also get to the stage where you just need more monsters to genuinely threaten the party. You need significantly more monsters as they go up, or more powerful monsters to threaten them. So one of the things we changed in particular is, we brought the trauma tables across from Low Life and stuck them into. Oh yeah, so when on the natural 19s now, there's all sorts of stuff that can be going on.
Okay.
But so that's in there. But also we made the hit point curve a lot flatter. So everybody starts with hit points equal to their constitution score.
Okay.
So if you've got con 13, you get 13, but plus a little bonus, like a magic user gets 1 point per level.
Gotcha.
So they'd have 14, but the fighter they get +3, so they'd have 16. And then after that, you'll hit every level, all you get is the set bonus. So magic users go up by 1 every level, fighters go up by 3 every level, and rogues go up by 2, that sort of thing. So the hit points hover around this. Oh, you can increase it in different ways, but not by much.
Basically, that's your flat.
Yeah, it's basically between between 10 to about oh, and the game only goes to level 9 now. It went to level 12
Oh, okay.
before.
That
So
was my
I've
next
brought it
question.
in.
Is it still capped, but it's done to level 9?
Yeah. Yep. So because what we found was almost hardly anyone was playing in the 10, 11, 12 bracket.
Okay.
Everyone was playing in the sort of, most people playing in the 1 to 6 bracket, but some were going through further.
Okay.
And I thought, well, why am I, and I had always thought actually of level 10 was kind of the retirement level in
Yeah.
LFG, because that's when you got your stronghold if you're a fighter, or you got your wizard tower if you're a wizard. So I thought, why, I should just focus on the levels that people actually
And Low
playing
Life
in.
2090 is capped at 10, right?
I think it is, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's right from memory. Yep. And at level 10, the low life guy retires.
Yeah,
That's
right. He cashes out.
Yeah, he basically, you made it. You could go retire on some island somewhere and spend your hard won coin. But yeah, so I pulled in the levels, and so you end up with a hit point range of something like, and it does vary, obviously based on your con score, but between about 10 and 30, maybe up to 40 for the sort of strongest fighters. I forget exactly, but which I think is, and I for me anyway, I think the 20 to 30, in that sort of 15 to 30 range is like the sweet spot, I think, for most short adventures. And that is one thing that Argosa is really refocused on, is the idea of short and sharp adventures. So you go in, it's like, like when you watch the TV shows and there's that contained episode of Firefly or Xena or whatever, or The Witcher even. So the characters go on that little episode, they deal with whatever that threat is, and then they move on to the next episode. And they're not necessarily connected. Like, you can connect them of course the GM can make some connections if they want to, but the idea is sort of shorter adventures. And so
It sounds like it would be almost like a perfect con game.
It probably would work well in con, because the short span that you've got there.
And for anybody who's watching it doesn't know what that means, a convention game. We're not trying to con people out of their money. So are you pulling over like the initiative attribute from
Low life? Yep. So we did actually. Yeah, good point, Wes. One of the other things I wanted to do was to make the game a bit quicker to run. And actually, although I really liked the way that the initiative worked in Low Life and LFG, they sort of work the same, but they have that derived. Low Life's got the derived initiative stat, which Argosa also has. Okay. So you take your average of your intelligence and your dex and you pull them together, and that's your initiative score. But we tweaked it further to make it even quicker. So now all that happens is just one person in the party rolls each round. So it's like the old side-based initiative, but a different person in the party has to roll each round. So you would tend to go, okay, we'll make our fastest guy go first. And
you're going around.
And then you go however you want. But you can't sort of repeat. If you use your fastest guy at the very start, well, you won't be able to use him. Like maybe later, there's a point where you really need to go first. But guess what? You're up to guy number 4, and he's the slowest guy in your. Well, that's the choice that you made. So anyways, but the primary effect of that, I think, has been it is much quicker. So that one person just rolls. If they succeed, whole party goes first. If they succeed with a great success, they can also go before the boss, or otherwise. So it's the same sort of style of initiative, but just the one person.
Just rolls. One person rolls. So no, we played. I was at Philly Area Gaming Expo, and we played a BX game, and that's the way the GM ran initiative. I mean, it was always group based, but he went, "Nope, your turn." And you get the guy with like a -2 dexterity modifier. It was a lot of fun on a D6.
Awesome.
That's good. And Coco B pointed out that he played a session of, I think it's they played a session of TOA last year. It was quite effective, less mad than LFG. I mean,
yes.
What is what like, how is that like slang in Australia? Like what's
that's the multi-attribute dependent.
Okay.
That's like the old monk class needed multiple attributes to be good, to be an effective monk. So you needed strength and dex and will. because
I
of the
have
way
to
they use
trade
their
in my
powers.
old timers card now that I didn't recognize at that moment.
Yeah, that's that reference. And so one of the things that's thank you, Coco V, for reminding me. One of the things we I don't know, we tweaked was that the monk now it can use its dex score for
Okay,
melee damage
makes sense.
for its monk attacks, which
Hmm.
it didn't used to. In the older in LFG, they still rely on strength like anybody else. So the
Hmm.
old monk was mad because it needed
Multiple
strength
attributes.
dex
Gotcha.
and will. And now it only needs dex and will, which is much more like the rest of the classes. I mean, having said that, all the attributes are kind of important for
Hmm.
everybody in different ways, but they have these primary stats
Yeah,
that
it's
they
less like you must have this or you will be terrible,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
the
yeah,
5e problem, right? Every paladin has to have a high charisma because that's their casting stat.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Epic Solo is here, high Epic Solo, and loves your concept for initiative. So very, very good. All right, can people actually before I even ask that, I wish I did not take a screenshot of the playtest. Do you have a printout or a copy of the cover image handy?
I've got the book.
You have the book. So you went bold with this. Like when
Here it
you
is.
showed me the cover of this book, and I went, wow, because low fantasy gaming is like this epic painted
Yeah,
picture,
that's
and
a
then
Daniel Commerci cover, the
oh, it's beautiful.
LFG.
And then Low Life 2090's got this incredible cyberpunk image, and then you just went, we are going stark contrast with this, and the reverse contrast is really cool too. So, what made your decision to make it to make that much of a break with the earlier books?
Part of the reason is because I think I am trying to go for a bit more of an old school feel to
Okay.
this book with the old school sort of themes of a bit deadlier and sort of easier to run and more of a focus too on improvisational play or
Okay.
emergent play. So, and I thought, well, I think black and white artwork does tend to go with that old school
Yeah.
theme a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you can't have amazing color art
Mm-hmm.
with the old school, and there's plenty of books that did do that, and obviously are still doing that. But I think so that was part of the reason.
Okay.
And so Luke Eidenschink, now I've probably pronounced that poorly. Luke Eidenschink, he did this cover.
It is awesome.
He did that cover, and he did a bunch of the other illustrations in there as well. And I'm hoping to commission him for some more scene sort of pieces. But yeah, look, that was the main reason, is that I'm trying to evoke a little bit more of that old school feel in the book.
Okay.
And also, look, it's frankly, it's much more within my means to be able to commission scenes of black and white
Okay.
than it is for me to commission a scene in full color. So that's absolutely true as well.
Yep. There's a
Yep.
reason why the interior designs were all line art in the old school.
Oh
They
yeah,
didn't have the
that's
money
right.
to do it. What and
That's right.
is all the interior artwork all like old school ink?
Yeah,
art?
so it is. Let me just see if I can. Oh well, I can show you the main thing
Yeah,
anyway.
show me
Well,
some
might
stuff.
be able to show you.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
So that's another Luke piece actually, and then this. I forget who.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
that's
drooling over
Felipe
this.
Faria. That one. But
Okay.
yeah. So I think yep. So that was the basic. Yeah, all the interior stuff. So it is. It's funny. It is actually a color.
Yeah, because your tables are color, right?
Yeah. So you might not be. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they can see it.
So it's got
Mm-hmm.
color
Mm-hmm.
headings and all of that. It does
Yep.
have color in it. So we're still paying for
The
when we
print,
produce
the
it, we're
color
still
print.
paying for a full color premium color book. But it just, yeah, it's just that we'll be able to fill this book, I hope anyway, with very awesome black and white scenes. Well, if we'd gone full color, it would be much, I expect anyway, that just with the budget that I would have, it would be more like low fantasy gaming where there's sort of portraits in
Yeah.
full color.
Mm-hmm.
But doing a whole page or a half page scene just is not as feasible. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
that's
I
part of the
did.
reason. And frankly, I think you can get some, the black and white can be super evocative, just like,
Mm-hmm.
you see an awesome black and white piece, it gives you the same effect, I think, same feeling as
Some
when you
of that
see an
old line
awesome
art is
color piece.
is gorgeous. I think
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have to say your character art in both Low Life 2090 and in Low Fantasy Gaming are really good. And the barbarian art, the portrait for the barbarian in Low Fantasy Gaming is one of my favorite pieces of all time. I just thought they captured as like, this person's dangerous, so that would be kind of, because they had like the painted face and they're like, okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
neat. Um, so can people check this game out right now?
Yes, so we have the playtest document, the playtest PDF is 249, something like that, pages. It's basically the whole game. The whole game is there for free on the playtest. So you just go to drive through, put in Tales of Argosa, download it. The game's basically there.
We're
It's
to
up for
point out this
playtest
is not
version.
Steven's day job, so which is why you can do that. Yeah, so yeah, so they can go get it at
It's
Drive Through RPG right now.
Yeah, you get it for free. It is version 4, so we've been playtesting it. I mean, the core system's been played for years and years since Low Fantasy Gaming, but we've been playtesting this particular tweaked version for since for at least 6 months now that we've been putting it together.
Okay.
So it's version 4 that's on there. We'll continue to tweak it, as it goes, but it's pretty close to final. And I still want to add another 10 to 20 pages of material. I haven't decided yet what that will be, because one of the real challenges with this has been putting together has been trying to decide what's the most fun stuff to take from LFG
Okay.
and then LFG Companion and other bits and pieces and put them into the one book.
Gotcha.
So we've had to cut certain things, but it's sort of a toss up. Yeah, there'll be another 10 to 20 pages. I don't know. It's going to be a toss up between either mass battle, revised mass battle, naval combat, more tables. Maybe I don't know exactly what we'll put in there.
I vote for mass combat. I mean, your ship rules were really cool too. They were simple, but the mass combat was like, whoa, this actually makes sense. Whereas like the formulas for like the old Beckme version of the mass combat, I looked at it one time and I went, yeah, I'm confused and I'm going to go do something else.
It was pretty straightforward, but it actually wasn't. I had some feedback. It was a bit too deadly, the mass combat. Anyway, so we'll probably have to.
It is a battle. I mean, it should be kind of deadly.
It should be deadly. Yeah, it should be dangerous. So yeah, there's the playtest document, and it's got all sorts of art in it. It's got some blank pages, obviously, and some blank spots, but you can full on jump in there and run it whenever.
And I'll put a link in the description after we chat tonight, or probably tomorrow morning.
Cool.
Because I'm going to go to bed soon after this. So, and actually, Epic Solo has pointed out, I applaud you for commissioning Human Artist. Thank you. Great looking stuff. Humans are wonderful. And Epic, this is a game that we should play together. Just pointing that out to you. So how and when are you expecting to launch this game?
I actually had hoped to already launch it, but it's been delayed a little bit because I was saying, it's going to be end of February, and there's been some bills that have come up lately that I need a certain amount of advertising dollars before I can launch this thing. So I'm just waiting a little bit longer. I seriously think it will launch in the first week of March, somewhere in there. So very soon. The page, I'm just putting the final touches on the page.
Nice.
But yeah, there's been a few things that have come up, including my wife's birthday, which is in a little while. And it'll be all hell like break loose if I'm trying to muck around with that.
Very smart.
Kickstarter.
It's a wise
been dealing with that. So
so
but it's coming soon.
What are you expecting the pledge tiers are going to be? Like, what's the base to get the book and sort of that? Have you set that up yet?
Yeah, okay. I haven't fully set it up, but so there's going to be the main book, which is going to be obviously the hardcover book, which is going to be a print run that we're going to do, or at least that's what I'm hoping.
I did see the book ribbon, so I'm hoping for an offset print.
Oh yeah, yes. Yep. And it's going to be one of those. The version that I've got actually is not a I think it's called Smith Zone or
Smith Binding. Yep.
anyway. Yeah, it's going to be that
Yeah.
where it lays much flatter. That's not actually the version that I've got, but because it's just too expensive to make one of those.
Right.
But when you make 300 or 500 of them, it does become possible. So that is what I'm hoping is going to have this sort of nice book, nice fancy book compared to our the print on demand books are perfectly good, and that's of course what we've used before.
Yes.
And this will end up being on print on demand too at some point. But yeah, the idea is because of Kickstarter you can get a lot of orders at once.
Yeah.
I could do a print run, print it off, send it out to everybody through a distributor. But it'll be the book, and then we've also got these cards. This is part of our sort of emergent play focus for this game. We've got some cards called the Deck of Signs, which is anyway, and it's an open question oracle with keywords that you can improvise off. And there's also going to be these dice, which you will not be able to see because I foolishly just took them out of the bag. But there's some other dice. These are basically
with runes on
yes,
them.
no, yeah. So there's sort of actually these are prototype. They'll be acrylic colored dice, but they're yes, no oracle dice. So we've got 2 oracles that you can get as well. So one of the pledges will be book dice cards altogether, and then there'll be just book or just PDF, and everything will come with the PDF, right? Whatever.
Are you going to have rules because you're putting these in here that are like yes, no, and like oracle? Are you going to have rules in there for solo play?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's absolutely. That's in there now. So in the book, I forget what page it is, but there's only 2 pages or something like that of solo stuff at the moment.
Gotcha.
But there's 2 pages on oracles and how to use the oracles in the game, and there's also some solo rules about playing like a lone wolf character, like a more powerful, like playing Conan or playing Elric and throwing them rather than taking the whole party. You can just take this one guy.
Nice.
And then there'll also be pledge levels for just the cards or just the dice or the dice and the cards. You know, if you don't really want the system, but the oracles look useful to you, where you can do that. So that's what we're thinking.
Cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that happen. Real cool. We'll hopefully get you more than 500 orders. We want this to do well. Fun. There you go. Epic Solo. There's solo rules. There's a game for you, which is fun. So now let's talk about Pickpocket Press's future coming up. You've already talked about you want to do a box set of Argosa, which I think is a neat endeavor to do. That'll be kind of a cool thing to see. But this is your 3rd game with the same basic game engine. So does this system have a name yet?
No, I guess not. I just keep calling it the low fantasy gaming system.
Okay, so just call it LFG system for that.
I guess we
got like the year 0 engine. You need a name, man. I got my one friend has his Ironbound system. I got the year 0. You get all these like. You need a name. Get a name for this thing.
I will have to. That's a good point. I will have to come up with one, but no, currently it does not. It's usually. I mean, a lot of people don't like the split system, so or at least they don't like the initial idea of it, of having to roll under for some things and then roll high, roll over for attack rolls and your.
I did think you missed a great opportunity to make.
I remember that.
Yeah, to make roll, you could make low armor class make sense again. That would have been great. Yeah. Also, would have blown people's minds. So, like you can't, but I don't.
I think I missed that boat, but that's a very good idea. But I think in older systems, of course, all these different, especially if you played something like Shadowrun or Cyberpunk 2020, every game back then had a bunch of different systems, and it's not. You can get to a point where it's too many. Of course, and that's Shadowrun's classic example of that. But I think if for something where it's just, if you don't have too many systems, it's totally fine. And as long as you've got good reasons for it. Yeah. So it's roll under for attributes because of those reasons we discussed before. And rolling high for attacks is just, frankly, it's
what we're used to.
I didn't want to mess with things that work well. If it works well, just leave it. It's working. So that was sort of the basic idea. And I think once you actually play a session, it comes easily.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think it was fine, but it needs a name. Um, I just it's for your marketing budget.
you're
Put it
right.
out
It
there.
does. We should.
Is there now? Is there a third party license that people can use to make stuff for this and
Oh
maybe
yes,
sell?
so in LFG for all our past stuff, we use the OGL obviously, and basically 99% of all that stuff is OGL. I think in the back, I just put a little list of
Okay,
you can't use, can't use low fantasy gaming by itself
gotcha.
for the purposes of promoting a game, but you can use compatible with low fantasy gaming or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, there will be for this one as well. So
Yeah. What
it'll
are you going to
be
create a new
it's going
license
to be
for
some kind.
Argosa or?
No, it'll be I think it will be the Creative Commons version.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So the plan is absolutely to make it as open as possible.
Okay.
So if anyone wants to make something, they can make something, and they obviously, if you're under that license, you don't have to come to me or anything. You can just make it.
Just
I
don't
mean,
use
people
your
can do that.
trademarks and things are good.
Oh, that's right. But that's how all the old stuff is. So yeah, you can just go and use it. You don't need to ask me.
Okay. And finally, and this is something I've been asking you for years, when are you going to come out with a post-apocalyptic game? Because may I point out, you live right there.
You know what? It would be so fun to make one, and I hope that I do manage to make one eventually. And in fact, the bones of it are already there in Low Life
Oh
2090.
yeah.
It wouldn't take too much tweaking at all to swap that over to
Hmm.
a post-apoc game. But you know who is making a post-apoc game right now, or it's in design? Goblin Scribe,
Okay.
Brad Ullman, I want to say, is
Okay.
behind that, is making Revolt, which
Okay.
is this extremely cool post-apocalyptic style game with mutants and animals and all sorts of stuff going on.
Fun.
But and as I've been seeing bits and pieces of his game, I've been thinking, oh, it would be really fun to make a game, but not now. Maybe in a few years.
Couple of years. Couple of years. It's your next
If we get lucky.
Kickstarter. Do that.
Too
You're
many
right
things
there.
going on.
All you need to do, because it's all in Low Life 2090's timeline. All you need to do is extend it like another 100 years, and everything's fallen apart, and the magic is
Right.
now mutations and flight. Well, it would be good. It'd be perfect. Also, you live in Australia. Like you're from the land of Mad Max. There needs to
Yeah,
be
Mad Max, that's right. The desert.
But
That's so true.
and it would be cool because you would have it. Since you can't call it Mad Max, you could call it Annoyed Alan. Okay. Um, it's King Eric, the
I
greatest
love
of
it.
all. That I'm waiting for. I always wait for his crazy comments. But I mean, it's like it's literally all right there. It just makes me say, and you would need to see you complete the trifecta because you have magic punk,
Those
you
would be the
have
main
fantasy,
ones.
and you have a post-apocalyptic. I would love to see that. That's my type thing. That's my thing.
It will be fun. It will be fun.
And you've talked about going back to doing conventions. Is there any chance ever of you picking up like an Argosa and doing some of the North American or European convention circuit?
I would so love to be able to go over there and see one of the big, be involved in one of the big cons. And in fact, I was talking about this years ago with my wife, and we go, oh yes, we can claim it on tax because
It's a business
we'll
trip.
both fly over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to the cons and we spruik in the game, and then you can also do other touristy things at the same time. So
Hmm.
it's entirely possible. And I would love to, because I could meet up with some of the guys like Jason Hobbs and
Hmm.
a bunch of the other guys. It would be really, really fun. But finances, budgets are
expensive.
budgets,
It's
and
expensive.
at the moment, yeah, it's I don't know if I won some money somewhere, I'd love to go.
What you need to do is you
But I
need to
just have to
nail
tee
this
it up at the right
Kickstarter to be
time.
able to like, oh, I've got some stuff
Yeah.
to do.
I should put that as a stretch goal. Down the bottom.
I'll do a North
Steve G
American
will
tour.
fly to America.
I'm going to be selfish. Come to PAX Unplugged because that's like 14 miles from me, so I can actually go to that one.
That would be hilarious.
It would be really neat, but it would need if then you could really do your.
Yeah,
King Eric
it'd
is
be
now
super
doing
fun.
a whole bunch of different versions of Mad Max. We now have Irate Irwin. Uh, thank you. But it would be really neat, and to see you get that exposure of being at one of these conventions for a tour, or hire somebody to run a booth for you. And that was my other question for you. You're going to be doing print, like actual print and not print on demand. What are the challenges of getting that shipped across the world from Australia? Are there any specific difficulties
We
you're
won't
having,
be.
or
Yeah, no. We won't be printing it in Australia, it'll get printed it's either going to be in the UK
Okay.
or it will be in there's another place in Lithuania, which I think
Oh,
Modifius and stuff
oh,
uses. I don't
really?
know.
Okay, cool.
There's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
few different places, but yeah, we won't. It's just the shipping from here to
Oh, it's insane.
primarily America, probably way too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, we won't print it here. It'll be
But is there like difference
another
like for
country.
business issues of being in Australia and trying to distribute in like North America, Europe? Are you having struggles with
Just
that?
everything's more expensive to
Okay.
create here, for better or worse. And then the shipping is, even more on top of that than it
Gotcha.
is between Europe and America and so on. So it's just, yeah, that's a real struggle. It's really, I wish I could print it here and send it out and support this, the Aussie businesses here, but it's just not doable, or at least I haven't found a way that is
I mean,
viable
people in North America
yet.
can't get things printed in North America.
Yeah, well,
Like I know Kelsey had hers was printed in China, just because
right.
that was the where she could afford to do it. So
Yeah, okay,
it's
okay,
expensive.
yeah.
So it's good. It's all the wonders of doing business.
Bloody inflation.
How far?
It's so bad down here. The cost of everything, the electricity, the groceries, the petrol. It's just like, oh, geez.
Well,
Interest rates
in the
going up.
U.S., our inflation is going down, but mentally everybody
Oh.
thinks it's going up. It's like we're very strange people. And we're like, yeah, inflation's going down. No, it's not. I had to pay this much. It takes time. No, light switch. It's got to be a light switch. Everything. I sit there and just
Takes a
shake my
little
head.
a while to rebalance. Well, prices don't tend to come down, do they? They just
No,
stop
no, no.
going
They're going to
up.
keep those
Yeah.
profits for a little while, and then they'll start
Yeah.
eking them down. It'll be fine. And how far away are you from making this your day job?
Oh, I think very far away. It would be so nice to just do this full time, but it's very much a side hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, side hustle, whatever. Yeah, and I mean, for me, I love doing it. I love making the games. I love testing them out. I love playing them. And so, I'm happy to do it for the fun of it.
Gotcha.
Although I don't like the editing, Steph has to do that. Steph does all the editing, the hard work. I will not engage with that. But the fun part, so it's yeah, it's significantly far away. Yeah, I
Gotcha.
can't see that on the cards
Well,
anytime soon.
I hope if that's something you want to pursue, that it happens for you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but
yeah, for
you're a
sure.
prosecutor. You can have some fun with that, I guess. Well, that's not really the word that'd be good for prosecutor. So, fun is not at the top of your agenda. And please, you need to go back and look at the chat replay when it goes up, because now Epic Solo has jumped in trying to create alternative versions of Mad Max. So and
I shall check it out.
and
I
has
shall check it out straight
apologized
away.
for doing it, which is fine. But that is all I got for you. I am like Stephen. I am so grateful. Again, I pointed out from the beginning, you're one of the first people that sent me physical product to do a review with Low Life 2090, which blew my mind that you would trust me with that. And then Low Fantasy Gaming shortly after that. So I am grateful for that.
No. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate taking the time, and it's a great opportunity to be able to chat on the show. And we haven't been able to do this before. It
I
was wonderful
know.
to speak with you face to face. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was great to have you on, and I can't wait for our Tales of Argosa to come out. I really I want to support this and see what happens. So hopefully soon we will see what happens. If you will stick on the line for a little bit, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody in the audience, and then I'll say goodbye to you properly. Matt Morrow said this. Thanks for this. It was a fun listen. Thank you for being on, Matt. And for Coco and for Epic and for King Eric, everybody else who watched who maybe didn't leave a comment. This was an absolute blast. But I'll talk to you in a little bit, Stephen, and let me go off to my own thing.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. So thank you, folks, for being on tonight. It is actually lunchtime where Stephen is, so this is technically an actual skipping lunch. It's just that both of us weren't skipping at the same time. And it was an absolute blast to finally talk with him in person or face to face at least. This is something we've been trying to work on for a long time. It was great. Updates coming on for the channel. I have my review of Land of M about 90% outlined at this point. Then I have to find time to record it. This was a difficult one to write for because it's got a real simple mechanic, but a lot of really interesting nuances. So I wanted to give it its fair shake, and so I've been taking my time with that. I have also finished reading at the same time the Godforsaken system book for Cypher System, which is a really interesting take on setting up a fantasy campaign. Is cool. I am about halfway through the Shadow Dark Core rules, getting ready for my full review of that. Just picked up yesterday with a birthday gift card another Cypher System setting book called The Origin, which is like X-Files meets superpowers. It seems really, really interesting. And I do have the Ninth World Bestiary that I got for, I think, in January to throw things at my players. And I'll be doing a review on that at some point. So I got a big queue coming up, and hopefully it will expand a little more. But had a wonderful time talking with Stephen, had a great time interacting with all of your comments. And until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.